Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am in front of the Vivier de Sion, which is a very well-known fish market here in town. And today I thought it would be fun to show you how we're going to put together a seafood party for 10 people. But I need some help. I've got my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law with me because they grew up in this area and nobody knows seafood better than the two of them. So come on! In the summertime, when the tourist season is at its height, it's best to arrive at the fish market right when it opens. That's when you're going to get the best pick of everything and it won't be that crowded. As soon as we arrived, we saw a huge tank of lobsters. But Vivian was explaining that lobsters aren't something that you would put on a traditional plateau fruits de mer. They were really something you would do maybe on the barbecue or have a special lobster dinner. But you have to check out these lobsters. These are amazing. Look at them. They are huge.
The large lobsters come from Brittany, where these red ones are coming from warmer climates.
Bruno headed right for the crab tank. He wanted to show me the different types of crab that are available in this area and was describing what they were like inside from crab to crab. Okay, so the difference between these two crabs is this one is called the araignée, or the spider crab, I guess. And Bruno is saying that the filling in this one is much more tender, it's much softer. Whereas this one, the tourteau, the filling is a lot heavier, so he thinks it's better to take the araignée because it's a little bit finer. So I'm going to go with what he says. The other interesting thing that Bruno was explaining is the difference in size between the male and female crab. So here in the tank he had two male crab and you could see they look like they're a pretty good size. Ah, okay, this is a female.
Ah oui, okay, c'est intéressant. Ah oui, il est beaucoup plus petit.
Ouais.
Oh, so you can see the female is a lot, the female is a lot smaller than the male, which is a lot bigger.
Okay, so because we're going to be 10 people, we're going to get 4 of the crab and we're going to cook them and cut them in half. Then we went along to the shellfish counter. It was really interesting to see all of the different variety of shellfish that were available. Sometimes things that I had never even seen in LA.
On peut prendre quelques langoustines aussi.
Oui, oui, c'est vivant ou des langoustines? Ah, okay.
Elles sont vivantes. On peut prendre des langoustines.
Okay, so we're also going to take some langoustine. These are my husband's favorite and we can really only get them in France. So now, normally the season for langoustines is winter, and we normally get them at Christmas time when we're here in France. But my husband, they are his favorite, so they'll still be good. They'll just be a little bit smaller than they usually are. And typically you serve them with homemade mayonnaise. Now, normally we would make this ourselves, the mayonnaise, but you need mustard to make mayonnaise. Because there's such a mustard shortage in France right now, we're going to buy it. Then when it comes to the other shellfish, you tell her how many people you're going to be, and she scoops up the shellfish and pops them in the bag. We got some little tiny clams, which are called les palourdes. We also got some of these bouleaux, which were already cooked, so we wouldn't have to prepare those. They were ready to go. These little tiny shellfish called bigorneaux, which almost look like little tiny escargots. They're small and black, and sometimes you also see them served during the cocktail hour. Then we also got some of these tiny little gray shrimp that Bruno was explaining you can have sometimes for an aperitif, or you can also put them on the seafood platter as well. He really knows the seafood best, so I was just letting him pick, and Vivian was in agreement. Now next it was off to choose some oysters. So Bruno was explaining that there's a very easy way to know when the oysters will be at their best. And it has to do with the months of the year and if they have an R in them or not.
From Novembre à décembre, janvier,
November,
février,
December, mars.
il y a un petit peu mars, mais après, stop. Elles deviennent laiteuses après à l'intérieur.
So if you buy oysters outside of those months, they'll be milky inside. And they're still good, but some people really prefer a clear oyster. So if you're looking for a clear oyster, you want to buy during those months that end with an R. Now, I couldn't help but wonder, being in July, why they were so eager to buy the oysters. But really, they don't mind a milky oyster, so it's one of their favorite things, and I've seen them eat them pretty much year-round. So when you come to the market, normally you would bring your straw bags, but when you come to the fish market, you want to bring something made out of plastic. This is my recycled bag I just got at the market, and here's another one. That way, if the water spills, we're not going to make a huge mess. Before we left, I was really curious about these large basins that you saw in the back of the store. Most of the seafood for the clientele is kept in the front in these big, large tanks. So I was curious what those big basins were for. Ask and you shall receive. Now we got a special invitation to go check out the back room to see where he keeps most of the seafood alive. Let's go see. They explained that they work with local fishermen to catch the fish each day, but in between selling the fish, they keep them fresh in these large tanks. which contain water coming directly from the ocean, which is just outside. This is in fact how the store began over 100 years ago. It was just a series of these basins. Their main clientele was the hotel just across the street, which still stands there today.
Qu'est-ce que tu penses, Viviane? On a fait des bons choix?
Oui, on va avoir un plateau de fruits de mer diversifié avec plein de couleurs et ça sera super bon.
Then it was time to load up the car and head back home. Vivian was going to show me how to prepare all of the seafood we just bought.
We're going to start by cooking the crab in cold water. And then we are going to heat up the water, and as it heats up, 15 minutes later, it will be cooked.
But Vivian warns not to cook the crab too long or their claws will fall off, and then it won't make for a very pretty presentation. And then it was time to fill up this big pot with water.
In the pot, we are going to put some gray salt, okay, some peppercorns are also going to go into this pot. And then we are also going to add this, which is some laurier, bay laurel, basically, and some fresh thyme. Okay.
We put our gray salt and all of our different aromatics in the big pot, and then it was time to add the crab.
Now, out of respect for our crabs, we are not going to show them going in the pot. Just trust me, this is what we're going to do. We're going to put them in the pot, cover it, on va couvrir.
Ouais.
We're going to cover it, and in 15 minutes, they're going to be done. A few things that are already cooked. C'est déjà cuit.
Oui.
Ça,
C'est des bulots.
c'est déjà cuit. C'est déjà cuit. So these are already cooked. Voilà. We're just going to leave it just like this, and when it comes time to put the platter together, then we're going to put them on top. Voilà, ça c'est les palourdes. Ah, ok. C'est le palourde. Et on va cuire sur le barbecue ou on va laisser cru comme ça?
On va manger cru dans le plateau de fruits de mer, mais on peut en préparer au barbecue avec du beurre et de l'ail.
Ah, ça c'est bon. Okay, so we're going to eat these raw on the platter, but you can also put them on the barbecue with some garlic butter. There, my brother-in-law put these on the barbecue last year with some garlic butter. They were so delicious. So you could do half and half too. All right, these are going to go over here. And then the last one we have that we don't need to do anything to are these little gray shrimp that c'est déjà cuit.
C'est cuit.
We're gonna put these on the seafood platter, but if we have any left over, you can also have them for a cocktail hour. Quite good. I've seen Vivian do that in the past. All right, this is going in the fridge. We're gonna put this in our American fridge out in the back, which is what we use for parties. All right, then the next thing we need to cook are the bigogneaux, right? These are these little, you can tell, these little tiny shells. But unlike the crab, we're gonna get this water hot first, but we're gonna use the same base that we used for the crab. Okay, then for these, it's a good idea, Vivian was just explaining, to rinse them through a colander, just to get rid of any little sand or impurities that might be found. So once it starts to boil, then we can put them in. So in they go. Okay, we're gonna just let it boil for 10 minutes.
Meanwhile, the guys went down to the beach because it was low tide. This would allow them to collect a bunch of seaweed that we could use to line our seafood platters with. Bruno just collected it in a big plastic sack and brought it home, and I couldn't believe how beautiful it was. I took it and put it outside just to sit in the shade until we'd be ready to use it later that night.
As we are nearing the finishing of the cooking of the bigogneaux, Vivian was just saying that it's a good idea to test to see if one of them is done before you empty out all the water. So she's going to show us how to make sure one is done.
Il vient, c'est que
Ah,
c'est cuit.
okay. So if it comes out easily with a pick, then you know it's cooked. If you can't pull it out, that means it's not cooked and it needs a few more minutes. But it looks like
C'est bon.
C'est
C'est
bon.
bon.
Okay. Now is the moment of truth. I think our crab are ready. C'est tu
Okay.
prêt, tu crois?
Oui, c'est
Ok, on verra. Ok.
bon. Donc maintenant, il faut les attraper
Ouais.
avec...
Now we're gonna take them out. There they go. Wow, that is a huge crab. Look at that.
Now that the crab was cooked, we could transfer them to a bowl and allow them to cool. But we have 2 more crab to cook, but they need to actually cook in cold water. So we wanted to take advantage of the hot water we had now that's already seasoned and ready to go to cook the langoustines in.
And the langoustines are much quicker. 2 minutes?
2 minutes.
Oui. 2 minutes. All right. We're not going to show them being put into the hot pot, but trust me, that's how we're going to cook them, and we will show you once they're all cooked. That didn't take very long. We're going to transfer them into this bowl to let them cool before they refrigerate. Now, you can buy a lot of the seafood already cooked, but it's so much better when you buy it fresh. I just think the taste is better. We're gonna let these cool and then pop these in the fridge. And now all we have to do is just cook the rest of the crab and we're done. C'est pas trop mal.
Et ce sera bon.
So I wanted to give you guys just a few ideas if you're hosting a seafood party this summer, how you might put it together. So I love these FOUTAS. Now, normally you would use this at the beach, but here at our market, they sell the really big ones, and I'm gonna use it as a tablecloth.
So the tablecloth isn't actually going to cover the entire table, but I think that's okay. Sometimes I think it's fun just to have a tablecloth in the center of the table to make a statement.
Now for the flowers. So you know I love my hydrangeas, and they are growing in the garden now, so I just picked a few. And I just think the colors are really interesting. Because of the heat, it has been so hot here. The flowers are sort of fading in color. It's been kind of funny to see that happen. So there's like this sort of antique wash. There's a light violet. And then there's a few left that are that really pretty blue. So I just put them all together for like an ombre effect. I think it's a really pretty color combination against the dark blue and against the gray of the table. So we will just take them as is. And I'm gonna leave some space for my big seafood platters because we have 3 that are coming. So I'll just space out, let's see, maybe every 2 feet or so. And then once we get the seafood platters in, we can rearrange it, but I think that's a good start. Then next I'm gonna use some of these SEAGRASS mats. I love these, and these are something you can also find on Amazon. I'll send you the link. But basically I like them because I think they're just rustic and beautiful. To me, they look like something you would find growing along the seashore. So I think they work for a party like this. So I'm gonna also keep everybody in the center of the table. I think when you have a big table like this, you can either choose to have people at the end, but I find it's just a little bit more, as the French would say, convivial, a little bit more friendly to have everybody kind of facing each other and not have 2 people at the extremity. So we're gonna squeeze in here. Then I'm just gonna use plain white plates. Anytime I'm using plain white, I look for some little detail just to make it interesting. And I love these. I found these at IKEA here in France, but I love them because they have almost like the traditional French pattern design of the scalloping, but it's just a little bit more modern. So we are gonna use these. You can hear the seagulls. They must know the seafood is coming. I hope they don't pay us a visit at the table. All right, there we go. And then for the napkins, this is something I love to do anytime I'm serving seafood, is to use dish towels as the napkins. Because seafood can be a little bit messy, and that way everybody has a really absorbent napkin. And then after the party, you just throw them in the wash, and then you have a set of 12 dish towels, and they're really inexpensive. So these are already folded, so I'm gonna keep them just like this. I love the blue and white stripe. I think it's really great and summery. It coordinates well with our hydrangeas. I'm gonna do like the French do and put the napkin right in the center of the plate. I think that's really nice. And then that frees up your table area, because sometimes like in the States, we'll put it on the table, but I think when you put it on the plate, it saves table space. I found these on Amazon. I will leave you the link in the description in case you want the same. But see, doesn't that look fresh and crisp? For a little bit of decoration, I'm gonna add some shells. So this is a huge bowl of oyster shells. I love them because they're beautiful in that the sun has bleached them. They're smooth, they have beautiful colors of violet, and I think that will go really well with our napkins. So I'm gonna put 1 on each plate. I have this huge thing of shells because I had the thought last year I was gonna make a shell mirror, which turned into a huge Pinterest fail. It was a total mess because these are really heavy and the glue was not adhering. Then when people go to put the napkins on their lap and they take the shell off, they can put them right here on the table. And I think that that will just add to some fun table decor. Then instead of traditional cutlery, we're gonna use some of these little tools that you need for the seafood opening. So one of the great things about the seafood platters that I bought is they came with these tools, which I thought was so genius. So it came with a cracker, it came with these little forks for digging out the crab meat. We'll need that. These are oyster forks, so we're gonna use these for the oysters. And then they also come with these little picks. What I would probably do is just put these all up here. Even though this is probably the traditional place for the dessert, we're just gonna use it just like that. So I only have 6 crackers and I have 10 people, so I thought 1 for every 2 to 3 people would work. So I'm just gonna put these in the center, and that way we can all share. It sort of looks a little bit like the surgeon getting ready for surgery, but I think this is what's gonna happen when we actually break into the seafood. We're gonna have to do some operating. Okay, then for the glasses, I'm gonna use these wine glasses. This is another IKEA find here in France. Unfortunately, I have not been able to find them in the US, but for any of my French viewers, I love these because they have a traditional look of a French goblet, but they're so sturdy, which has been great for our rental. We have not broken but one. I also find like heavy glass just reminds me of a nautical feel. So if you can't find these exact glasses and you want to replicate the look, I would just look even for jelly jars. Something rustic and faceted like this that reflects the light, I think is a good choice. Chilled seafood dinner is a great way to go if it's really hot where you are, because even though you want to eat outside and enjoy the summer weather, nobody wants to fire up the barbecue at the end of a hot day. So this is perfect. It's all ready to go and nobody needs to sit over the grill slaving away. I'm actually not going to put that many candles on this table because we're at a time of year right now in France where it stays light until 10:30 at night, believe it or not. I know, I can't believe it. Every night I'm like, wait, how can it be 10:30? It still feels like it's 5:30. So 3, I think, will just give us a little ambiance. And again, it has that same sort of design that the other glasses do. These are just old French jelly jars that I got at the Bracante. It used to be used to have jam in it, and because they're such a thick glass and they're used to having hot things in it, they make for great candle holders. So I got them just for a few euros. So we'll put one there, maybe one in the center, and one down here. Okay, everybody's getting restless, but I had to show you this. This is the cutest thing. It's a little crab that you used to put on the table to alert the domestic help that it was time to change the plates. I think it might be cute to get everybody to come out of the pool and into the dinner situation. I can just whack it and say, hot tub. He seems to be right at home, this little crab, in this little nautical scene here. So we'll just leave him right there. This will be my seat. So now it is the moment we have all been waiting for. We are going to put together our beautiful seafood platters. These are the traditional seafood platter.
C'est plus pratique après, ça aère, c'est plus pratique pour servir.
Ah, d'accord.
Que chaque convive puisse se servir dans le plateau de fruits de mer.
Super. Okay, so you need to have them raised because it's a lot easier for people to take what they need. I bought these on Amazon, on French Amazon, but I am sure they exist in the States, and I will leave you a link in the description if you want to know where to get them. We have this beautiful seaweed. Me and my American way, I want to take this, put it in the sink, wash it, disinfect it, but my French relatives say absolutely not. You leave it just like this because it gives a lot of flavor to the seafood. So, Bruno, watch, I'm going to ask him just to make sure. Bruno, on va laver tout ça dans le bassin avec l'eau et rincer et tout ça.
Il n'y a pas de bactéries, il n'y a aucun problème. C'est typiquement français de les mettre naturellement dans les plateaux de fruits de mer.
D'accord. All right, we're not going to rinse it. It's beautiful just the way it is. This is the nature, and you know, we're just going to go with it. So I have learned you don't argue with the French. You just do as they do. Okay, look at this. C'est la salade de la mer.
La salade de la mer, exactement.
Oh my gosh. If you can't find the seaweed where you live, you could also use little stones. You could buy dishes that are actually made for seafood platters that might have decoration on them. So there's other ways to go, but I just couldn't resist this. When they said they were going to the beach to go ramasser les algues, I just was like, wait, what? Normally, when you go to like a fancy restaurant in the States, you'll see ice. You'll see seafood platters made with ice. But Bruno is saying don't put too much ice because that will start to freeze the seafood underneath. So don't do that. Okay, c'est fait, c'est bien?
C'est parfait.
So right now we are trying to figure out what type of vessels to use for the little pieces. So we have like these little tiny shrimps. They would get lost in this huge platter. So we're trying to use these little dishes that will elevate them and we can just kind of nestle them in here with the seaweed. Okay. Jean-Jacques here is arranging the langoustines like this, in a little pattern. Isn't that cute? Très bien. Okay. Maybe we'll put these in the center. Oui, on va mettre ça sur le centre, comme ça. C'est plus joli, ouais. And I think the idea is just to make sure that each platter has everything represented. That way, when we put it on the table, everybody has a little bit of everything. I'm going to wipe the crab down just a little bit so it's better for the presentation. We cut it in two just so that it serves more people. That's a lot of crab for one person to eat, so we're just going to cut it in half.
Mais on peut la mettre comme
Oh
ça.
là là, c'est magnifique. This is looking good, but we're missing a very critical piece.
Les huîtres.
Les huîtres.
Il n'y a pas de souci.
now for the very important part of opening the oysters. And for as long as I have known my brother-in-law, he has been able to open these oysters like a champ.
Ah, bah
Quel
oui.
est le système? Quelle est le technique?
Alors, il y a plusieurs systèmes. Il y a des personnes qui ouvrent les huîtres sur l'arrière.
Bruno explains there's a lot of different ways that people can open an oyster. Some people will open them from the back. Some people will open them from the side. That's actually how Bruno likes to open them. So he takes his little oyster knife and very gingerly cuts the muscle and lifts the shell open.
This is something you want to do at the very last minute, right before you serve. You want to open the oysters. Everything else could be prepared in advance and you could put in the fridge. But if you're serving oysters, do it at the last minute.
Tranquillement le tendon.
Okay, so you want to cut very gently the tendon there, parce que ce sera plus facile pour les gens à manger.
Voilà. Et il n'y aura plus qu'à la laisser glisser pour la manger. Elles sont fraîches. C'est excellent. Accompagné d'un petit verre de muscadet, ça l'est encore plus.
It'll be even better if you serve it with a glass of muscadet. The reason why you want to relieve that tendon is so that it just glides right back down your throat. Okay. And it's going to explain there's a special bread that you want to serve with the seafood platter. This is the bread. Et c'est quoi ce pain exactement?
Les huîtres, on mange surtout du pain avec du seigle. Du pain de seigle, c'est un...
C'est des grains? C'est quoi
Oui,
exactement
voilà,
le
c'est
seigle?
ça. C'est comme des grains et ça a un goût qui va bien avec le iode des huîtres.
Des huîtres. Okay.
Voilà.
So when you serve oysters, you want to get a bread that is very seeded like this and has a lot of grains in it because it goes really well with the flavor of the oysters. So we're going to put this like this. Le beurre.
Alors le beurre, donc c'est le beurre breton avec du sel, absolument. Sinon, ce n'est pas bon.
Okay, so we are going to serve this Brittany butter that has a little bit of salt in it with our seafood platter. She says if it doesn't have the salt in it, it's not going to be good. You could serve it with the bread. You could actually put it in the little platter. Sometimes I've seen that at restaurants, which is kind of fun and pretty. But definitely you need to have the butter and the bread. Après, le citron.
Soit on peut le couper en tranches, soit tu peux faire de la décoration et le découper en fleurs.
Okay, so you could serve your lemon in the slices, or you could do something decorative and create a flower out of it. And Vivian's going to show us how to do that. Okay, that's it. So she's cutting like little diamonds, almost like an Easter egg design in the lemon. And this is going to create a nice little decoration. And on va mettre ça sur le plateau.
Sur le plateau.
Okay, we're going to put this in the platter. Wow, bravo! C'est magnifique.
Voilà.
There, we can add something. There, we can put that in our little
Nickel.
food platter. So we also have some oyster plates. This would be a traditional oyster plate, although Vivian thinks that this might not be for oysters. Peut-être c'est pas pour les huîtres parce que le motif c'est un peu différent.
Voilà, peut-être des pétoncles, mais ça peut marcher pour les huîtres.
Okay, it might be for a different type of seafood, a different type of shellfish, but she said it's okay, we can use it also for oysters. So we're gonna give it a try because we're running out of room on our seafood platters. See, and it just fits right in like that, which is quite pretty. So now we are going to make the sauce that is going to go with the oysters. The traditional sauce is really a vinaigrette served with shallots. So Vivian here is mincing these shallots into small little pieces, and then le vinaigre.
Et vinaigrette.
Okay, c'est combien le vinaigre?
Dessus, jusqu'à recouvrir.
Okay, so we are going to add the vinegar just until we cover it. A little bit of pepper and a little bit of salt.
C'est parfait.
C'est parfait. Okay. Nous sommes prêtes?
On peut
À
manger.
manger?
On peut manger.
We're ready to eat. Okay, let's bring this to the table. It's also very important to have a couple of bowls for all of the shells because once we dig into all of this seafood, there's going to be a ton of shells. So make sure you have at least one or two of these bowls at each end of the table that can be accessed. We have our white wine here, so we have our beautiful muscadet chilling and ready to go. I think we got to bring everybody to the table. I think it's time for my crab. Let's see if it works. À table, tout le monde. Langoustines are my husband Philippe's favorite, and he is going to show us how to properly eat a langoustine. Okay, go ahead.
Take the langoustine, take this head, and you just up, 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 open like that.
Okay.
You see the nice meat here?
Yeah.
This is going to go in my mouth. After, you crack the edge and look what you find here. The rest of the white meat. You cut the shell from the langoustine. And if you did a good job,
Yeah, it is some work getting it out, right? But it's worth
when
it.
you get out, look at this piece.
Okay. And then what do you do with it?
Now, me, especially me,
Yes.
putting a little bit of mayo on it.
Uh-huh.
Not too much, you know, just enough.
And the bread.
Which bread?
Here. Don't you
I'm
usually?
sorry.
Okay.
I do.
Because you usually have a little bit of a baguette, right?
A little bit of a baguette.
Mm-hmm.
And you squeeze it on it. Et hop, my French sandwich is on.
Je te dirais quelque chose que tu pourras utiliser en conclusion si tu veux.
Oui.
Des fruits de mer frais, c'est excellent. Mais en France, il y a quelque chose qu'il faut absolument faire durant la dégustation. Profiter d'un verre de vin. Toute la fraîcheur du fruit de mer ressortira.
Oui, okay. C'est vrai. All the freshness of the seafood platter will be yours if you drink it with the white wine. Okay. Well, I hope you guys have been inspired to host your own seafood party at your house this summer. I, for one, am going to go join the table and enjoy ours. All right, you guys, I'll see you back here next time for another fun French adventure. Until then, bye. Un, deux, trois.
Ouais! Yeah, yeah, yeah!